The Last Book in the World by Omar Cuellar. The year was 1985, and I was 11 years old at the time. I had never seen my father so agitated. With the fingers of his right hand, he ran along the shelves of the only bookcase we owned, making sure no book remained there. In his other hand, he carried a black plastic bag containing every book my family had bought over the years. Most were very long novels, which, given my age and my own inclinations, I had never attempted to read, and if I had, I'm sure I wouldn't have understood them. Even with the black plastic bag in one hand, and a deeply disturbed look on his face, my father crouched down in front of me, set the bag aside, and shook me by the shoulders. "Promise me you don't have any books in your room. Promise it. In the name of God and your mother, promise me you haven't taken or hidden any book." "I promise," I lied. And I stood frozen, unsure whether I felt that way because I had never seen or heard my father shout at me like that, or because of the lie I had just told. After calming down, my father hurried outside and threw the bag, with all the books, into the trash. All the books, except one. The book I had hidden under my mattress the day before, what people would later come to call The Purge. Now I am 36 years old. I'm an adult, but I still have very vivid memories of how my father shouted at me that afternoon, and how I simply decided to lie to him. It wasn't until I turned 15 that I understood the gravity of the situation and regretted hiding the truth from him. Not a day went by without guilt tormenting me. But how could an 11-year-old child, lacking adult language, possibly explain to his father why a book was so important to him? How could I, at 11, tell my father that the book made me feel good because whenever I read it, someone appeared in my mind whose body and consciousness felt more real than my own body and my own consciousness? It wasn't until I was 15 that I learned the full story. In 1985, governments all over the world began confiscating every novel, short story, tale, and narrative that existed, in every language, in order to get rid of them. Once all literature had been seized, governments and citizens carried out the purges, in which they buried, burned, and destroyed every printed book that contained any kind of story. And you may wonder why this happened. Well, even now as an adult, I still cannot fully understand it. To this day, neither science nor religion has been able to explain what occurred in 1985. What exactly happened? Many people describe it as mass hysteria, though personally I believe it was something else. The one and only moment in history when humanity fully united. What took place was this. In 1985, people who read literary works began to realize that no matter which book they were reading, they were all imagining the same character. A character they had never met in real life, and with whom they started to identify. Beyond this vicarious quality, the character who appeared in every reader's mind seemed to take on a life of his own. It felt as though he enjoyed living inside the stories. People across the world were reading different works in different languages, yet the protagonist was always this same character. Everyone interviewed described his personality, clothing, and body language in strikingly consistent ways. When this being spread and began to be imagined by readers everywhere, governments became alarmed and started searching for a real human being who matched this imaginary entity. Unfortunately, they never found him. Terrified by the spreading theory that this imaginary being was some kind of alien weapon designed to invade and destroy the human psyche, governments decided to carry out the purges and destroy all literature containing stories, because this entity liked to inhabit them. He could not live or express himself in manuals, academic or scientific articles, or cookbooks. He enjoyed being imagined in different settings. There was even another theory claiming that the entity was training inside readers' minds in a variety of situations, preparing himself so that one day he could come to life, armed with the accumulated experience of the world and the ability to face any challenge or scenario. I don't subscribe to any of these theories, but now that I'm 36, I have witnessed the consequences of a humanity that stopped reading many years ago out of fear of imagining this unknown entity. Science and art have stagnated. Ethics and morality have been forgotten. Degeneration prevails. We are regressing cognitively, and all of this stems from the fact that, when we stopped producing and consuming literature, we stopped producing and consuming possible scenarios of the past and scenarios of the future. By refusing to imagine those possibilities, we abandon creation itself. Now we merely exist to eat and survive. Maintaining the body has become our final and eternal purpose, and no one dares imagine anything different. No one can now conceive of a change or disruption to the status quo. Yet at the same time, no one knows that I possess the last book in the world. Ever since I was 11, I held it close and hid it under my mattress, not because I was some visionary who could foresee that the world would collapse without the imagination that stories foster, but simply because it made me feel good every time I read it back then. It made me feel good because I imagined that entity, unaware that he was also being imagined by every reader in the world, and that he might potentially be some cosmic being whose intentions remain unknown to this day. Today, I dare to make this letter public, addressed to the most powerful leaders and elites of the world to inform them of my discovery. A few months ago, I came across a mysterious verse that apparently has the power to update the intentions of whoever reads it aloud. So, while reading the following verse out loud, I formed the intention that this imaginary entity should reveal himself and appear before me. Sleep, watchman, until the spheres have turned 26,000 years, and I return to the place where I now burn. Then other stars shall rise upon the axis of the heavens, stars that soothe, stars that bless. Only when my orbit is complete shall the past disturb your door. And this is what that character, who for so many years had been appearing in my mind and in the minds of every reader in the world, said to me when, with a human figure and human speech, he stood before me and spoke with a smile on his face. My name is Nathan Essery, and I am a cosmic imaginary entity. I have come to plague this world, because humans have summoned me. They no longer wish to live alone in this universe. Quote,